Yeah, that's a great question. It is in part a comment on who I'm writing to, right? One of my, so Spanish was my first language, English is my second language, and one of my clearest memories of being a student was having to figure out all of these different things that people kind of took for granted. You know what I mean? Like I was learning English very literally. So a phrase like, oh, that's cool. It took me a little bit to understand that people didn't mean that that was cold, right? That had other meanings. I want to include Spanish in part because that's how I talk, but also because for any readers that might be reading it who immediately understand that someone kind of speaks the same language as them, you know what I'm saying? But the other thing I'll say is that for me, I really am starting to believe that language is untranslatable to a certain extent. And so you can approximate meaning, right? One of my favorite words in Spanish is the word ojalá. Ojalá can be loosely translated to hopefully, but ojalá is derived from the Arabic word inshallah, right? And so ojalá for me carries these notes of like sacred, of holiness, of God, in a way that the word hopefully for me doesn't have those same notes. So even though they're quote unquote translations, they're not really, they're two different things in a lot of ways, at least for me. And so part of the reason why I use Spanish is because that's how I feel I can get closer to the exact kind of meaning that I'm trying to get to. Yeah, for me, I love that question. For me, a title is a hook, right? And so whenever there's a chance to write a title that immediately is going to grab someone's attention, that to me is useful. It's also the first chance you have to kind of set expectations. So sometimes, you know, it's something that I think about, right, is like if I have a title that sounds funny, is there a way that I can make it, the poem, more serious maybe? In a bunch of the classes that I visited earlier today, I got asked about process and inspiration and how I write poems. And I talked about a bunch of different sources. You know, a lot of times it could be listening to music, it can be trying out little exercises. This is a poem that I wrote because there was a headline going around the internet that caught the attention of my friends and I. So this poem is called Poem with Corpse Flowers and No Corpses. It's in conversation with the poets Alan Chasado and Kim Sosa. And the headline that caught our attention was this. It says, hundreds line up for blooming corpse flower at abandoned East Bay gas station. The Mercury News, May 20th, 2021. Begin with the morning breath of the corpse flower. Consider what rots might feed the veins. Alternatively, all vanity requires stink. On the other end of the best steak of your life is a cow moaning a song of agony. Somewhere there is a producer flipping that cow's last word into something that can hold a snare drum. One of the first questions our ancestors had to answer was what to do with the ones who die. At some point, they started feeding the dead back to the ground and naming babies after them. So when a corpse flower opens up in an Alameda gas station, it's a minor miracle, not a Warriors game or a funeral or a wedding, but the whole block gathered to watch a flower remind us of our family, not dead and not gone, but ready to bloom again. Cool.